What's good, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, as always, Harmon Jr. Please feel free to follow me at Harmon Jr. on all your social media, and I am posting TikToks now. So yeah, I'm basically famous now. So get on while the getting's good before I get too big for all of you. And I just like make money and stare at you little people, your little problems. Care about y'all. No, I'm playing. I love y'all. I'm not gonna get famous on TikTok, I promise. But as always, we have a very special show for y'all today and a Full Circle podcast first timer, one of my actually oldest and dearest friends in the gaming industry, Alissa McAloon. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm flattered. I wasn't expecting to be flattered, but thank you. Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. And you are. And before she introduces herself, people, I will let her know how long we've been friends. If you remember, I've been trying to get you to bring your DS for PAX for like a decade. Yeah. And you have never done it.
I brought it. I swear to God, I brought it 1 year and I forgot the charger. And we didn't have a 3DS charger or something like that. I remember bringing it.
Yes, you know what? Something I don't even remember what for. I don't know if I needed your birthday for Metopia.
You needed what was the swap pass thing on the 3DS from South Dakota? Because I'm from South Dakota originally, and I think you said you had not had that. Was like the only state you were missing
you're
for like
right.
years.
For years, I still don't have South Dakota people for the Me swap pass. It shows where people are from, and the United States has 50 states and 2 regions. I had both regions and 49 states, and I still do not have South Dakota. Yeah, just hole in my heart.
I could have sworn I brought that at some point. Like, I kind of want you to just like find your 3DS and open it up and see if it's in there, because like I feel horrible now.
You should.
When nature has healed and we can see faces again forever, hopefully I'll bring my 3DS. I'll find my 3DS and I will bring it.
Yes, I didn't want to tell you that before going on the show. I was like, no, I want her live reaction to this.
I want to see the embarrassment on her face.
The year-long betrayal. But Alissa, just in case people don't know who you are you and what do you do?
I am Alissa McAloon. Yes, I write for gamasutra.com, which is a website about video game development and not whatever its name pun was trying to accomplish. We write news and features and all the kind of like in-depth behind-the-scenes stuff that game developers would be interested in, and they give us cool content to publish in return. It's a really wonderful site. Over there, I am the news editor / associate publisher, which just means I stare at Twitter a lot of the day and write a ton of news stories on the site. Like a lot. We're a small team, so it's one of those mini hat situations. But yeah, no, I love it there. And I've been doing the math recently to be like, oh, how long have I've been writing about video games? And I think I'm coming up on 10 years, which is terrifying. I do not like thinking about that at all. But I was with Destructoid for a little bit. I interned at Game Informer for 3 months. Yeah, it's a good crew of past interns there. They're all good people, every one of them. And then I was at Twinfinite in that was the site I started out on, so probably like 2012-ish or something. I wrote there, and then I was a editor of some sort for a while, and now I'm here. That was a backwards walk through my past. I don't know if most people do it that way, but here we are.
She was like, I'm a super boss lady. Ladies is pimps too. Go ahead and brush your shoulders off. But before all that, I was a
weird college kid who was 21 and still hiding a bottle of alcohol in the back of my dorm closet because I didn't know if it was allowed despite me being of drinking age. Just an anecdote to capture my entire personality. It's allowed, but I'm still nervous about it.
Oh, no, completely. I remember being a freshman and thinking everything was illegal. And I was like, oh, God. They had me convinced that they really do random dorm checks. Like, they just kick down the door. Mm-hmm. And then basically what it equated to was like, hey, everybody, we're doing like a dorm check. Hey, you got anything bad in here? No? All right, cool. Good enough for me.
I was 21 years old. I had a legal to drink because transferring colleges, I had to be at the dorms or whatever. I know this is what we're here to talk about.
Exactly.
But it was a bottle of the pink kinky liquor or whatever, the girliest stuff you could get, and it was wrapped in a sweater in a box that was pushed back to my closet with something on top of it. I was top level paranoid about something that was probably fine. And writing about video games.
I see enough of those bottles with not liquor in it to where you could have been like, I grow my plant in this. I have seen people
Yeah.
grow plant in those bottles. Don't know why. That's a thing.
It's wasteful. You don't want to just get rid of them. I have a bunch of bottles. Like, if you can see my shelf there, it's just bottles that have plants in them that are getting roots growing.
All right, today's people, the podcast is about recycle, reuse, and reduce. Those are our topics.
That's the circle, right? The full circle.
Yeah.
It's a little of the diagram.
There it is. You know what? Show's over. We're done. Enjoy the week,
solved
everybody.
Your podcast puzzle.
It is. It's like, I need y'all to go to the Patreon if you want more incredible content like this.
How quickly has a guest derailed your podcast before? Because I feel like I'm probably pushing pretty high up in that leaderboard.
You know, I can't remember what, but there was a podcast where I didn't say what we were talking about until like 20 minutes into the show.
Good. I need to find a timer and see how close we are.
And that's only because like they said something crazy. Like they didn't say this, but we were talking and like the intro comments were like, Metal Gear Solid 3 is the worst game ever made. Why did Hideo Kojima do that? And it was just like, okay, that's that. Before anything goes
New topic.
That's exactly how that went down. But for real, people, what we are talking about today, if time permits, if you know we don't derail this whole train that we're on currently, because that's quite possible, honestly, because opinions matter and they come hard. But Pokemon Unite. If you didn't know what Pokemon Unite is, it's the Pokemon MOBA. What's a MOBA? Well, bruh, we don't got time for that, so go ahead and Google that. We're talking about that last. Don't worry, we'll catch you up. But it's coming out next month. It's going to be here. And is it going to destroy the mobile community? Is it going to take over the world like Pokemon Go did? Is it going to be a silly Pokemon game like the Brush Your Teeth one and we never talk about it again? Who knows? But we're here to speculate. But before that, we're going to be talking about the retro remake renaissance. What's the retro remake renaissance, you ask? Well, statistics show that more people are playing old games than new games. And when I say old, I don't mean like, you know, Super Mario 64. I mean games that came out like 2 months, 5 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year and a half ago. Why is that? We'll discuss now on Full Circle Podcast. But before all that, guess what, people? xCloud is finally out. I know what you're thinking. Hasn't xCloud been out? Yes and no. xCloud has been out for like, you know, people who are special beta tests and all that. But now it's really out. It's like out. Like you can like hop on your iPhone and your PC now and you can play games. And Alyssa, I have to ask. Yeah. Now that xCloud is out, is there any point in trying to compete with Xbox in terms of like these game services? Because Luna failed, Stadia failed. I'm surprised that, you know, GameFly is still a thing with Game Pass. Like, is there any stopping them at this point?
They're kind of making it really difficult. And I think if we're going to be talking about xCloud, we have to use its proper Christian name now that it's out in the world. Oh, no, it's going backwards. What is it? Xbox Cloud? No. Yeah, Xbox Cloud Gaming? Is that the
Xbox
official name?
I believe so. You know, I swear, I Googled it earlier, and I typed in xCloud and something else came. Yeah, xCloud Gaming. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Bad
there was like when they started to swap the lingo up, they were using both at the same time to refer to it, and my brain is just like, I feel like I'm wrong, but I don't think that I'm wrong. But I don't Xbox and Microsoft have built this entire like I don't know this like cyclical like ecosystem to just like get people into it and then keep them there, and it's not like it seems like such a friendly proposition, and I don't know why anyone would not want to be a part of it. Well, I know why I'm not a huge Xbox person, but like. It's such like a force in the industry. Like it's hard not to like recommend it to like when you're talking to like your aunt who doesn't know video games and wants to like have cheap ways to get her kids into it. Be like, oh, have you heard of Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate and like the streaming stuff? You don't even need hardware for that. It's such like an enticing offer to give people. Like it's how could it not take over the industry?
Exactly. You know, I was equating it to handheld Nintendo consoles. I'm thinking original Game Boy all the way to 2DS XL. You know, are they at a point now like when Nintendo's handhelds like why even try to compete? They have the market. They are the market. There is no market. They are the market. I'm gonna say something controversial here. The Vita was not that good, people. The Vita had some games, yes. It had some games that I would consider good. But I don't understand why people like to pretend Vita was this magical, it was too ahead of its time handheld.
It's not about if the Vita was good or bad. It's about what the Vita could have been. And it didn't have the support it needed to even like get a running start at that. It was just fell straight on its face and they're like, all right, on to the next one.
No.
It's I'm a Vita supporter, so I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna put it like this: the Dreamcast was ahead of its time, but people like smack the Dreamcast to like, oh, how dare you? How dare you have Phantasy Star Online and be the first console with major like online support and have these amazing graphics in game and house the only good 3D Sonic games? Yeah, I said it, people.
Damn. I don't like the Vita. I know the thing we are here all to talk about right now is the PlayStation Vita, but it had a really solid like way for JRPGs to release in the United States. Like there were a ton of like great JRPGs that just kept popping up for the Vita long after like Western publishers had kind of abandoned that platform. And also I think there was a pretty healthy indie game community on there for a while, to the point where when PlayStation did the bait and switch where they're like, oh, we're going to wind down the Vita store and the PS3 store, like people were still actively being like, oh, I'm developing a Vita game right now. It's not going to make the deadline. What the hell am I supposed to do here? Like, the Vita's fine.
I'll take your word on it, because I will be honest, I never owned the Vita.
It's got joysticks instead of circle pads. It's good.
Oh man, there were some games on the Vita that I always wanted to play. I think Muramasa the Demon Blade was on there, but then it came to like Wii at some point, and I was just like, oh, well, problem solved.
I think I have the Tomba games you can play on there through like their PS2 collection, and I am like very big about the Tomba PS like one era game.
Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure you're not listening to the show, but we have talked about Tomba immensely on this show.
Good.
That is my favorite game I've never played. And what I mean by that, I had it on a demo disc from one of my magazines from back in the day, and I replayed that demo so many times. Never touched the actual game, but the demo though.
I ended up with a copy of Tomba 2 in my house. I don't remember anyone buying it for us as a kid. I don't remember asking my parents for it or them mentioning it. It was just there one day. And it was incredible. I played the hell out of that game. And yeah, I had that same demo disc and would just play like the beginning part of Tomba 1 on like repeat, because I didn't have the rest of the game or like a way to ask for that specific obscure Japanese game that I don't know where we got to begin with. Like, Tomba's great.
It is, and I say that from a place of only playing the same 10-minute increments for like maybe hours on end, but that's okay. So
if you had a Vita, you could play.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you were the first person to ever convince me that maybe I should get a Vita for the sole purpose of playing Tomba.
Yeah.
I commend you for that.
I'm just waiting for like the moment that I'm misremembering and you actually can't play Tomba on those, and I invented this entire reality here and got your hopes up for nothing. But
at that point, like me, you, and handhelds just don't mix. Like it's an unholy trinity. Like Alissa, Odell.
I'm just here to gaslight you about like handheld.
Like we like if we're ever like at a business meeting and we're talking about handhelds, I'm like, one of us have to leave because it's. These things don't mix well for us.
I feel like I came to like a cool hangout with friends and there's like an intervention poster hanging in the background as soon as I walk in the room. Like, oh, what's going on here? Alissa, the handheld.
So I'm going to ask you, I'll say slightly uncouth question, because, I mean, I don't know what we can say about xCloud. It's great. It's amazing. Best deal in gaming. Yada. But at this point, should game companies even try to compete with it? Like, I'm going to be honest. Stadia is a bust, people. Stop playing yourself. It's a bust.
I think Amazon Luna could be better than Stadia in the fact that they didn't shoot themselves in the foot like the day they launched.
But I swear to you, people still don't know Luna exists. Like,
yeah.
Like, I see an article about Luna and I'm just like, oh yeah, that happened.
Well, the weird thing, like both Amazon and Google had it going for them, where they have already this entire army and network of like cloud compatible devices attached to people's TV. Like I have a Fire Stick in here. We have a Google like something or other out in the living room here, but we don't play any of those like connected things. Like it's weird how that didn't exactly take off the way it should. Like you didn't have the marketing language there, or like the ability to get these controllers into the hands of people who already had the tech and didn't know it. Like there's just some missing leap in the message that never quite took off for like, especially for Stadia, who just like proactively tried to do the worst. Like I have a big Stadia rant that I'm not going to get like full into. I've written it word for word like a dozen times on Gama Sutra. But it's interesting because Stadia, the thing I'm here to talk about, of course, came out of the gate with all of these like announcement, and they're like, oh, well, there's going to be like state share where you can just like share a link and someone can jump into like essentially a save file at that exact location with everything exactly the same. And there's a bunch of other like features that leverage the cloud in a really cool and interesting way. And then like 6 months later or whatever, they launched Stadia, and they're like, yeah, you can just play these 5 games in the cloud, kind of. The other features are coming eventually. We don't know when. And then they came out, like, I think State Share, the first game that featured it, came out like a year after. Like, it's just, it's baffling because there was so much promise and so much, like, I think if you want to compete with xCloud, xCloud has the games. Like Microsoft has that entire, like, they have that library of games. They have all these partnerships they can go to. They have the Xbox like studios that they are just acquiring to make it an enticing platform from the games. But you still have to get into the platform, and like, I don't know, there's the other platforms out there have such a easier angle for like the accessibility, and if they can leverage the cloud in an interesting way to kind of like lower the friction or just give like a feature that makes it worth not having a console or something like that, that's like your golden ticket. But that hasn't clicked quite yet for anyone. It's just, it's frustrating.
No, okay, I feel you.
So, cool.
So one of my biggest gripes with the gaming industry, which I will say is a bigger gripe than its lack of diversity, just to stretch how big of a gripe this is for me, is that we've entered an era where you kind of get shunned for saying anything is bad. And what I'm saying, I'm not saying criticize the developer. I'm not saying criticize the millions of people behind it. I'm not saying criticize the people who put their heart and soul into it. I'm just saying the byproduct. Because at the end of the day, that's our job. We rate things, and some things are just bad. And what I'm going to say about this, before Stadia came out, I kept preaching that this is not going to work. This is a bad idea. I don't know why they're saying these things. And people be like, oh, you can't say that. You can't say that it's bad because people worked on it. I'm like, but I can, though, because it's bad.
I think it's fine to say something's bad as long as the conversation doesn't end there. Because like so many people are like, it's bad, it sucks. And that's like a period for them. They end the sentence, they walk away, and they don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
But like if you can... if you can like dissect why something is bad and like talk about it and explain it and podcast about it, then I think the opinion's valid.
Yes.
Like it's okay to not like things as long as you can have a reason for not liking them.
Yeah, and that's why I always try to express. And I remember telling people, I was like, Stadia shouldn't be saying these things. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it doesn't sound possible. And they're like, but you don't know. I'm like, okay, if Xbox came out today and said, we're taking things to the next level, xCloud, yawn, and Game Pass, yawn, we're beaming these games into your eyelids while you sleep, I'll just be like, we're not there yet. And Stadia was like, yo, you could be streaming a game on YouTube, Twitch, whatever, no latency, and have your friend jump in to the exact moment in your game, stream doesn't drop. Like, I'm just like, bro, no, that's it. We're just not there. I don't care how cool that sounds. I would tell people, and I would be like, I don't think this works. And they're like, how do you know you're not there? I'm like, just because the technology is not there.
Yeah.
If
they had waited just a little bit, like waited a year, like the technology moves so much further. It's still not at that level, but like if they had just waited, and they might have been able to deliver on more of those promises a little bit. Because I still think the entire idea of like a streaming game where you can, like, I can send my dad asked me, he just got his PlayStation back for my sister, but so he was asking me, he's like, oh, what's a game like, not Hitman, but what's a game like Grand Theft Auto? So I got him on Watch Dogs. But I'm imagining that conversation if I could just like, yeah, here's a link, click this, it'll pop up on your phone, and you can just use your controller that's next to you to try this game, which it was the Stadia promise, instead of the entire like friction of like going to a storefront and like finding the right game and buying it and then seeing if you like it. Like, I don't know, the promise was so good, but yeah, the tech wasn't entirely there, and I don't know. Googled it.
And I would tell people conceptually, and especially after like I saw a demo of it, like on the show floor, I was just I think it was one of the PAXs, I don't remember which one, you know, whenever the world was open, and I was just like, yo, this does not work like they say it works. This is gonna be bad.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, the promises were just so high. It wasn't like, oh, this is what we can do. This is within the realm, a little wow factor, and then it'll get to this. And then, I always tell people, Cyberpunk 2077, I honestly don't think had that bad of a launch, and I honestly think the game's really good. Yes, I played it on my PS5, and yes, it did crash a lot, but the story was really good. I always tell people there have been much worse launches that got way less, I was like, the band hammer on. And I always point to Stadia. I'm like hell, like you said, like I said, if you said anything bad, quote unquote, about Stadia, people were like, give them a chance. And I'm just like, so the game industry confuses me. It's almost like, why are we defending this person and like condemning this person? Because I still stand by that. Cyberpunk 2077. If you took away the controversy of its launch, I still say that's a phenomenal game.
Yeah, I've same boat, played through it on the PS5. I think I have my crashes were every 2 hours, and I got to like 13 and I stopped counting at a certain point. But I love that game. I love like it has its problems, just like from some of the writings, and but like the way it handles like companion characters, they felt more alive than like a lot of other games that I've like played before. I just really enjoyed like I did every single side quest in that game, like just interacting with characters, and that was so good. But I disagree, and I think like the fire there was kind of warranted because like on PlayStation 5 it was bad, but you did see like some of like the screenshots of like how it was on, or videos rather, of how it was on like base model like PlayStation 4 and stuff like that. Like if they had only launched it for like Series X and PlayStation 5 generation and PC, I think it would have been fine and overblown. But I think that kind of launching it as advertising it as a fully functional product for all these people on older hardware who then would buy it and be unable to have the same experience that PC, PS5, Xbox Series X players are having, kind of warranted the controversy around that. It's kind of where I come from on. I don't know. I really like Cyberpunk though.
That is fair. That slight tangent. I'm not gonna go into my usual rant about this, but I honestly am not a fan of cross-gen releases. I think the game industry just be like, look, these games are next gen. It is what it is. It's hard to get a console. It sucks. We know it. But guess what? You'll get it eventually. And here, this is where Game Pass comes in. It's like, look, it's not cross-gen, but it's on Game Pass. And if you have the hardware to play it, you have the hardware to play it. If your PC is good enough and you have a Series X and S, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're giving points of entry. But I just feel like, some games it's okay because some games they genuinely, they had it. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan. Like if your game's gonna look like it was on 2, 3 year, 4-year-old again hardware, just make it next gen. But I digress. We're not here for
two tangents to your tangents that I will loop back into the conversation we're talking about. It's going to be maybe impressive now that I've overhyped it. There was a PlayStation quote from, I think, Jim Ryan going into the PlayStation 5 console generation, where they talked about, we believe in generations and that we feel like having a generational divide is important to like develop technology that or games that fully use the technology. I'm like, yes, I agree with that. And then PlayStation's like, actually, here's a bunch of cross-gen releases. Didn't agree with that. But segueing that back into what we were talking about, that kind of goes with the whole Xbox pitch, because there was a Phil Spencer quote, maybe, I'm bad with names of who said it or whatever, but where they were talking about the like Project xCloud, what their aspirations with it are. And they're like, oh, we can kind of future-proof like older hardware, because you can have an Xbox One that runs xCloud. In the future, they want to bring like xCloud, Project Stream, or no, Project Stream was Google. Xbox Cloud Streaming. I'm just going to call it xCloud. They were going to bring xCloud eventually to the last console generation, so the Xbox One generation, and with the power to play like Series X level games. Like they gave Flight Simulator as the example of one they were working on. But they were talking about how the goal would be to allow people, even on older hardware, to still be able to play newer games and those kind of like higher fidelity experiences by leveraging the cloud through the hardware they already own. So you're kind of like, yeah, you could upgrade if you want to have it all on your machine, but if you don't have that opportunity, that pathway, or like the money for that, here's this like $5 a month subscription that gets you so many other things, and you can also, or 15 or whatever, and you can also play these newer games without having to buy into the expensive hardware. So they're really like creating this entire behemoth of like the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate family, and it's wild. Like it's gonna get even weirder in the next few years.
Yeah, I always tell people, I went from like a professional, interpersonal friend level to never talking about Xbox unless maybe we were like, you remember Halo? Yeah, that was fun. I want to do that again. Yeah. To like almost talking about it every other day. And so I'm glad we actually were tangent, because again, I really didn't want this conversation to be like Xbox does it again. But
meanwhile, Stadia doesn't. No.
But at this point, because I know people are going to hear what I'm about to say and immediately be like, no, Odell, that's horrible. That's not innovation. That's not how we move forward. But do you think game companies at this point should just hang up their coats and just focus on other areas and not try to have a Game Pass competitor, an xCloud competitor, or like a la, Nintendo with their handheld? Like, let's not even worry about doing that, because I kind of feel like they shouldn't. They should just be like, Xbox has got it on lock and key. Like, let's just focus on doing something else.
When you say game companies, you mean like the big, like top level, like platform holders, game companies?
PlayStation, Nintendo, and then I don't know if EA or Ubisoft, or they have like their Ubisoft Play and EA Connect, but those are like
Yeah. Well, so Stadia, I think it's kind of like I'm big on metaphors or anecdotes, I don't know, but like with MoviePass a couple years ago, how they're like, oh, here's this revolutionary $10 subscription, you can see as many movies as you want a month, and then like, oh no, we're losing money, oh god, we're losing money, and they're gone. But like AMC A-List from the like AMC, who is obviously the platform owner of their movie theater, started up their own program that gets people in seats for like a slightly higher fee. But you have like through their app and their ecosystem and everything, and then they make more money off concessions because you're in there. It's kind of like the same thing with how Xbox is going. But I think to bring the metaphor back in, you have all these other like cloud services kind of like failing in this area, but I think the fallout from that is going to create interesting technologies and ways to kind of like rise from the ashes that go in a slightly different direction. So I think competing and failing is kind of normal, because then you get things like good things that come out of that, like specifically with Ubisoft. Stadia, and we'll see how this like actually plays out in the future, whatever, because tend to be a lot of talk and a lot on the action side of it. But when they did their big wind down of their Stadia game studios and laid off a bunch of people, unfortunately, but they're like, all right, we're not going to make our own games for Stadia anymore. We're going to focus on leveraging the platform. And part of what they talked about there was working with publishers to give them their game streaming resources so that the publishers can essentially use Stadia to then reach an audience instead of having to make their own cloud service or whatever. I don't know how that's playing out. I know that like Ubisoft Plus or whatever the heck it is goes through Stadia, but I also know that Ubisoft Plus goes through Amazon Luna, and Ubisoft's always been very forward thinking with being involved in like cloud-based streaming projects. But I don't know. So that's one interesting way, I think, that instead of trying to compete with Xbox or bowing out completely, they can look at this and be like, all right, how do we leverage the technology we have? How do we take these failures, learn from them, and find a different application that will then benefit the industry and probably feed back into an Xbox thing eventually.
And the interesting part about this conversation is like, so, because of the Apple versus Epic thing, Microsoft released that crazy statement that they never made money off of Xbox, which is insane to think about, but actually makes perfect sense why they wouldn't have, considering how late they came into the game and how they've always been in the shadow of Sony and Nintendo in one shape, form, or another. But the thing that always has surprised me, though, about all of this is how Google has consistently tried to get into gaming and failed at every turn, because I'm just like, they have the money to literally just they have money to pump into something until it succeeds, and yet they can't do that with gaming. And I'm just like, I wonder where the disconnect is with that.
There's an interview that I read. I'm so bad at remembering specifics. I remember approximate things about things like media I've consumed. But there was an interview probably at like Polygon or Kotaku or IGN or something at some point that talked about like that kind of, and it talked with a number of anonymous Stadia like developers who had been at Google. And the disconnect seems to be that Google keeps, or not Google, yes. We're talking about Google?
Yeah.
Amazon. Sorry.
No, we're talking about
I'm big
Google.
on the Stadia train.
Okay, let's like this. Google and Amazon both
Google
have
and Amazon
money.
both.
Yeah. They both
Amazon
have oodles of money.
Yes. But like Amazon specifically, hard time getting into games. But like, people talking to ex-Amazon game studio is where I was going with that. Where it seems to be these like tech companies come towards games and like, all right, we've got money, we've got programmers, we can make a video game. And they come into it with a very tech mindset, where the actual like studios within game development are creative, like primarily creative. So there's just a disconnect from like how those two like tech company structures work. And generally it seems like the big like Amazons, your Googles aren't willing to adapt to kind of like what works in the game industry. Like they bring on all these like producers, like your Jade Raymonds and everything to kind of like oversee things. And then they don't follow like their tried and true feedback, but they're like, no, we're Google. This is how we do things. We're Amazon. This is like the Amazon principles here. You have to follow them. It's rich company stubbornness, I think, is what it might boil down to.
I call it the guy or woman in the executive boardroom going, nah, I've never played the video game, but this is how it's gonna work and it's gonna be good. And it's like, why are you here?
And being like, oh, I make $1 million a year, so obviously I'm very smart and I know how things should be ran, when sometimes you need to humble yourself and step back and learn.
Yes, like the current executive of Cartoon Network, they shall not be named. They know how I feel about them. But they basically came in and was like, yeah, cartoons, creative. I know what kids want. Hey, this show's popular. Let's run it at 80% of our schedule. And someone should have been like, I don't care how popular a show is. 80% of our scheduling is probably just a bad idea. And they were like, it makes money, so do it. So people, if you're wondering why like regular show, Adventure Time, Chowder, and all these good shows like started, basically not existing on the network, and Steven Universe was only there for new episodes, is because of that person. Because they were just like, run the show that makes the most money all the time. That's how business works.
Heartbreaking, but that explains the TV guide listings I've seen recently for Cartoon Network.
Yeah, so these people, I'm like, how about you just take your $1 million check and do something else for the company? How about that?
Yeah. It seems like they're these figures who are like, oh, this is a lucrative field and I want to get in on some of this, but like being unwilling to like think outside of the box or even outside of their own worldview when they go into this, and I don't know,
or even understand what the box is. How can you even start there?
I would like this to be successful, but I refuse to like unwrap this box and even look upon it with my eyes. Like, no.
That's what we pay that guy who gets my coffee to do. Oh man, that'd be sad but true. But moving on, but kind of also related, because xCloud Game Pass gives you the ability to play all these games that have come out that you have yet to play. Supposedly, according to them, I don't have article statistics in there with me, so just run with me, people. It's true. It's true. Well, one is easily true that, people are playing remasters like there's no tomorrow because, they keep remastering games, and it's great and wonderful because I got to play Mass Effect for the first time. Great game. Great game.
This art right here is a Mass Effect art that's super blurry in the background, but
yeah, so Retrograde, Mars, Final Fantasy VII. That's why my life sucks now. Just came out. I don't know. What didn't Retrograde actually happen? I don't know. Astrology people, I don't keep up with it. I occasionally I see a post and someone goes, "My day sucks."
Mercury.
Yeah, there we go. Mercury. I said Mars.
I don't follow them, but I support their struggles, and I'm so sorry that's happening to you and your planets. I've tried to learn like astrology stuff, and my brain just does not stick to it. But
yeah, that was a very long and complicated joke. Did not stick to landing. It's cool, but I'm rolling with it. So basically a lot of people are playing remakes, obviously, because they're making them. But what they found out, Among Us being a prime example, that game was out like, a year or two before people actually started to play it. And then just other games that people are like, there's a big influx of people who are playing supposedly now Ghost of Tsushima for like their first time through, and they're talking about it. And there's older games like that. And the trend seems to be now that people are saying that, I don't think it's an issue. I think it's just a factoid now that people are playing games more that have been out, and let's just call it a year more than, new releases. So, for example, you would have more people playing a game that came out 2 years ago than like Ratchet and Clank, something that was out a week out. And it got me thinking, and I was like, people, the conversation seems to be like, oh, well, people love retro games. We just want to, relive the classics. But I think it's because we always complain, and everyone's aware that so many good games come out at the exact same time. And I think we're reaching like a critical mass point, like as the consumer base, that we literally, even if you have the finances to keep up with this, like there's no feasible amount of time anymore. How many AAA games can you play at once? Maybe 2. If the older you get, it's realistically just the 1.
There's if you see me like stare off into like the distance suddenly, it's because I remember there's a quote that I wrote about that applies to this, but I don't remember when or who said it. But some video game person who makes games and is smart like talked about a couple years ago probably how you're like less and less vying for like like people like a slice of their paycheck as you are like a slice of their time. Because it used to be kind of the proposition of how do I convince people to spend $60 on my thing versus $60 on their thing. And now as you have like more free-to-play games getting in or like more live games getting in, it's just you can only play so many live games. Like I kept up with Destiny and like one other video game, and then I just like every time I think about going back to Destiny, I would love to. The lore is doing really interesting stuff, but I'm like, I don't have the time for a live game right now.
Oh no, I feel you. Like Apex is my live game of choice. That's it.
Yeah, because you can't be like, oh, I play Apex, I play League of Legends, I play Final Fantasy 14, and I play Destiny. Like, there's no way one human person can be like up to date in all of those and still like breathe. I don't know.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I always tell people those skills don't transfer over. Like, I'm a god at Apex. Oh, let me hop into Call of Duty. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Or it's like, I'm a god at Fortnite because I'm 12. I'm sorry, people. That was rude. If you like Fortnite, that's fine.
Younger kids do better at Fortnite because their hands don't have all these old pains to keep them from doing I can't build that fast. My joints ache.
That's why I don't like Fortnite, because it's a building game, and I'm not like, I can't build under pressure. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I can't. It's anxiety the game for me in Fortnite. It's like I'm shooting at someone and they made a house, and I'm just like, okay. That's tight.
You can live your life in your house. Have a great day.
Exactly.
Kind of circling that back into the tangent or the original question, I don't remember. But like, I guess with like the kind of remakes and the like comfort franchises and the return to that, like for me, it feels like those are like popular in my life because they are a guarantee. I can look at them and be like, this is a Pokemon Snap game. It is a new Pokemon Snap game, but I played the old one 20 years ago or whatever. I know that I know the gameplay, I know how it will treat my time, and I know what it wants from me. So I know all of this going in. And you don't get that with like if I had picked up Return on launch day, I have no idea what I'm getting into there. If I pick up like the Mass Effect Collector's Edition, which I think we're playing through, is that on Game Pass? No.
There's no way. If Mass Effect Trilogy is on Game Pass right now, I will end this podcast.
No, okay, sorry. My partner bought it. I'm like, why was I able to play it without spending money? My partner bought it for Xbox, that's why. But like that came out, and I'm like, I know exactly what that game is. I know kind of like what experience it's going to give me, and I kind of know what I want from it. So like there's that side of it where you have this ability to kind of like go into media that is familiar but still new in a way to you. And like getting to re-experience things you played as a kid, but as an adult with adult brains and adult experiences, like reframe so many different like conversations and like moments in games and like things about like game like worlds and economies I didn't care about as a kid. I'm sitting here like reading the codex now. Like it's like an entirely new thing, despite a lot of that content was out 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah. And the catch-22 of this that really bothers me, it doesn't bother me as much as I find it interesting. But we live in a world now where I no longer know when a game actually came out and for what. Because if you didn't pay attention, you would think Hades has released at least 10 different times already. For like the first time. Because anytime Hades...
Even when it was still in early access too, I'm just like, is this game out yet?
Like when it came out for the Switch, I was like, is this a Switch exclusive? Because I thought it was out for like everything 2 years. Whatever. I don't know. Switch is the place to play it apparently because it was 50% off and I bought it. But...
But like going into E3 like that too, there's so many things. It's like, oh, look at this cool Xbox exclusive game, and then we come out of E3 and the press release is there, and at the bottom it's like also on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch and PC and Stadia, and it's like, oh, not an Xbox exclusive.
As someone who's been to many PAX for a decade, I am still convinced Brawlhalla has never officially released. That game has just been a game you can play. That's still because it's always
There was like another one too. There was like a screen sheet or like there was some game that I always remember being like the specific corner of the PAX like room was never out. It's probably out now, but I just remember it always being there. It was really comforting to just like walk by it every year after year after year.
Yeah, like I swear, because I'm just like, is Brawlhalla in beta? Has Brawlhalla been in beta for its existence? Because the game keeps adding new characters and new packs, but somehow it's also not out. But somehow
maybe they were doing early access before early access was cool. It's a model that works well now, but it seems that things are kind of ebbing away from that. I don't know.
You know what's my favorite game that's never out but is never actually released and is still not released? Ark. I don't know what Ark is.
Is that the dinosaur one?
Yes, the dinosaur one.
My sister plays that, and she is like the biggest heart person that I know. And she'll talk about like it. I think it's, from my understanding of it, it is a game where you can build stuff, and also train and fight dinosaurs, and also like it's Rust-like in that it's a persistent world where a bunch of people are at once. But she will go through and just make a server and just make like a little happy farm for dinosaurs to live on and just like play that game entirely like pacifistly. It's so wonderful and I love it.
Oh man, that's great. But Ark has not had an official release yet, and it hasn't. Like it's just like, what are these? Like that's a category of game where I'm just like, what do we call you?
I don't mean to hurt your heart here, but didn't they announce a sequel for that too?
I think, yeah, with Vin Diesel with the yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a Vin Diesel.
Yeah, but I'm like, but Ark hasn't came out. I don't know what is going on.
Nothing is real. Release dates are made up. Dates are made up. Time is made up.
Yeah, and so my second point that I find interestingly annoying, there we go, I'll go with that, is that like Cyberpunk as a prime example. People demand games come out. They're like, anytime a game is delayed, people are like, rah! But I'm like, but do you even have time to play that game? If they were just like, all right, cool, here's God of War 2 Ragnarok, here's I don't know what else is supposed to be. Here's Horizon Forbidden West, here's XYZ game that's supposed to be coming out amazing. Breath of the Wild 2, they're here, they're good. Now go. I'm gonna play one of those games now, and then the other two like a year from now when the next big thing already came out. Like, I've already told myself I really want to play Deathloop, but depending on when Deathloop releases, that just might be a game I miss. But I also really want to play it, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm so bad at like that specifically. Like, I don't want to say like, I think it was 2019, like the November-ish area where every game comes out every year. But there's like a very specific like crumb trail you can follow through my like game history where I'm like, okay, I got like super into, I don't know, Persona 5 or something, and then I stopped after 30 hours. Why did I stop? I'm like, oh, because this other game came out, and then I played that, and why didn't I finish that? Oh, because Hitman came out, and I'm just like, I keep buying and trying to like do them all, but then by the time the next big thing is here, I want to do the next big thing, and I want to be in the online chatter about the next big thing, and it's kind of like half of like that game journalist job too is always to be kind of like have an idea of what's going on in the industry, what games are being talked about, and like just always being aware. So it's just jumping from one lily pad to the other before it sinks or before you finish it. I don't know where my metaphor was. It's just
Oh no, I feel you. I recently beat Paper Mario the Origami King literally 2 months ago. I beat it before I started Mass Effect because I was in a major RPG mode, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna ride this wave. But I bought Origami King when it first came out, which was the beginning of 2020.
That entire I can't tell time. Like, if you ask me how long ago something was, 2020-ish.
Okay, so I remember this. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Paper Mario Origami King, and The Last of Us Part 2 all came out within like a week span of each other. And so, of course, you know, like The Last of Us Part 2 had to get like top priority because I had to see what was going on with the game that I said didn't need a sequel. So then like that happened, and then it was like, oh crap, by the time that finished, I was like, I gotta play Ghost of Tsushima. And then I did it. Because Persona 5 Royal came out. And so
I need to get into that still.
Yeah. So then like I played that. And then basically I was like, okay, time for Paper Mario. But then it was like, I just played Persona 5 Royal. I don't really want to play an RPG right now. And then new Pokemon Snap came out. I played new Pokemon Snap for a week. It was starting to show its wear and tear, the things I don't like. I like the game, but there's a significant bigger chunk of things I don't like that I wish wasn't there. So I popped back in the Origami King as a palate cleanser, and then just like marathon that. They had no intention of marathoning it. It was just like, oh, I'm playing it. Oh, I'll keep playing it.
I'm playing Dragon Age Inquisition right now, not for like a similar reason, but the result was very similar. Where I had some like friends on Twitter reach out and be like, hey, you want to play that Dragon Age like tabletop role-playing game? I'm like, yeah, I play way too much D&D. Let's add a new one to it. So I'm like, oh god, I played Dragon Age a ton as a kid. I played Origins to death. Like I was one of back when everybody hated Dragon Age 2, I was like being like, no, but it's good in this way. And like I never got through Inquisition, I think because of something like that, where I was playing it and then a new game came out and I never went back to it. But I did finally just start playing it Inquisition again because I'm like, oh, I just want to brush up on my like lore for this, like for character building for this tabletop role-playing game I'm going to get into. And now I'm like 30 hours into it and I'm just like doing all the side quests. I'm like, yes, for the lore. It's like, no, you tripped and fell into an RPG that's going to take you 100 hours to beat.
Yeah, and so based on like even what you said and what we're both saying, I think we're gonna start to see a trend where even if it's a AAA, because with indies, I think people think it's common for indies to exist, and then someone high enough on the ladder says it's good and sings its praises, so everyone goes to play it. But I think we're gonna start seeing that with AAA games. Like people are just gonna be like, I'm just gonna miss these games, and we may see like a popularity or a resurgence of most people playing it like a year or two after it's released. Like it's not going to be just like an indie title that does it, but maybe like AAA titles that do that as well. Mm-hmm. In the sense that no problem. I had a friend and they were like, hey, is Ori and Will of the Wisps any good? And I was like, oh, it's amazing. I love it. Like I weep. I shake my fist in anger. It's great. It's colorful. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna get it. And I was like, I'm not gonna say it's better than the first one, but the sequel, it gives the first one a run for its money. I won't say which one is better. And they're like, there's a first one? And I'm like, oh, where have you been? And this person like plays games. They're not like, some casual that picks up a game every, once a month or something. And I was like, what do you mean? How did you not know the great Messiah that was Ori and the Sleeping Forest? Crap. Oh God, what was the name of the first story?
I didn't. My roommate loved it. My previous roommate loved that game. Ori and the Will of the Wisps and Ori and the.
Oh crap. Ori and Ori and the Blind Forest. Okay, I said
we would have got there eventually.
Yes, I said Sleeping Forest, and my brain was like, I don't think so, man. Try again. So Ori and the Blind Forest, and like they. Like somehow, Ori and the Will, it's not old. It came out it's probably like a little bit over a year since its initial release.
Yeah, they both come out since like 2017. So they're both relatively new games, right?
Yeah. So but I think they saw it because it had the physical release for Switch not too long ago, and it might have been. But they came across Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and I don't know what they've been playing, but they somehow missed the original Ori release completely. And I was thinking, like, that's wild. But I'm like, maybe it's not that wild.
Well, like, to bring that, I think you mentioned this earlier in the whole podcasting experience, too. But then you have, like, things like Xbox Game Pass, where it's just, like, here's a library of a bunch of games ranging from, like, Xbox 360 games to, like, here's some brand new releases from the studios that we own, and you can play them whenever. And like it'll be interesting to see how that kind of like accessibility of having a library of that like sheer size at your fingertips for such a like a low cost of entry affects how people consume games. Because there was like I think an Xbox blog around like E3 time or something where they're talking about how like, oh yeah, our internal data shows that people who sign up for Xbox Game Pass play like, I don't remember the percentage, but like play like 30% more games and try like 45% different genres than they did prior to subscribing to Xbox Game Pass. So you're getting like more people actively, not only are they playing games they wouldn't have tried before, or maybe games that weren't on their radar at release and they're discovering now, but they're also spending more time in those games for some reason. Like there's gonna be some larger shift because of that, and I hope they keep like being transparent about those figures, because I want to know. I want to watch that happen and see, for better or worse, how it unfolds. Like it's so interesting.
Yeah. So I make this joke way too much, but I'm gonna make it again, but only because now I realize I really want it. I'm only making the joke to hide my insecurity of me really wanting this thing to happen. But I can't wait for Game Pass to have like Netflix sections of like AAAs you maybe missed. Hit gems, games worth. Like I really need that section. I thought it was stupid when I was saying, but I'm like, that'd be really cool to go into Game Pass and be like, great games you might have missed the first go around, and being like, there it is, here's, and being like, oh.
So I would love something like that, because I have such a hard time when I've opened up. I'm not generally an Xbox player, but my partner subscribes to like Ultimate and all that, so I open up Game Pass. I'm like, well, let's play a video game. And I'm like, oh God, here are so many games. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. And then I just kind of like page through it and then I close it and I go play Cyberpunk again or something. Like it like that amount of like curation, I would love that. Like Apple Arcade tried to do that, but nobody knows how Apple Arcade's doing. Nobody knows specifically how well Apple Arcade is doing. But where they have like those kind of like categories that are very helpful when I remember that I subscribe to Apple Arcade and I open it up, to kind of like be like, oh, here's like new and notable. Here's something that came out a while ago. Here's like games that are this vibe. Here's classic games that are like have a new like skin to them or something like that. Like, and it's very helpful for getting through that catalog overload of just staring down a page of games and being like, where do I start with this?
And I feel like Microsoft would do it better than Netflix, and I think it'll be cool because game data is so, I would say, much more reliable of you as a person, being like, you know, RPGs you haven't played, or, you know, things like that. But then, like, you have an entire friends list of people you interact with, and it's like, these are the games, these are the people you play online with the most, and these are the type of games that they play. And you will be like, oh, Alyssa plays this game. Shit, her opinion isn't trash. Yeah, let me see what this is about.
It'll like the Steam level kind of like algorithm play that is at work for all of that, like bringing that onto like console platforms or like onto these like massive streaming libraries would be so good. Steam's like entire discoverability thing is just like they've done so much with it in the last couple of years to try and like make it better for developers and make it better for players, and it's really interesting now.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share a personal antidote because I've actually never shared this before, but it is happening, and like I reconnected. Well, not reconnected, but one of my friends, they have children now, and they're always like, "Man, we should get a multiplayer game to play. We should get a multiplayer game to play," you know. And sometimes we do, but 9 times out of 10, like the game usually sucks. Like we played through Army of 2. Not saying Army of 2 sucks, but it was just like it was a better way to spend our time.
Yeah.
But with Game Pass, we have now played 5 different multiplayer games. Haven't beaten none of them. But we played like World War Z. We played Army of 2. We played I can't remember. And I'm just like, we couldn't do this before because we legit had to buy the game. But now that we both have Game Pass, we're just like, we're just kind of like, it's like a Saturday with a beer game. It's like not like let's watch a bad movie, but let's play a multiplayer game. And if it sucks, it sucks.
It's like the like old sensation of like going to the video store and being like, this box art's cool, and just grabbing it off the shelf and bringing it back home to play with friends. It's great.
Exactly. That's like the sensation it gives us, because it's just like, and you know, it is cool because we have yet to find one we beat, but we're still joking. Like we play World War Z the longest, and the only reason like we stopped is because and this is completely it's dated in a sense. Trying to lobby up is the hardest thing on the planet to do.
And World War Z?
Yeah, it is not because of Game Pass. It's just like the system that the game designed to lobby up. And I think also because like it's weird, like if we both put like because we're playing on our PC, if we both put like we're PC players, we never find each other. But like if we pretend to be an Xbox One and like what, like it's so and like one day we tried to connect for like 15 minutes and I don't know what server it was on or I don't know what happened, and then we never played it again. But it was fun trying to connect. I don't know why. We were trying to connect the game.
Playing the game of connecting to the game.
Best game.
There's a big, like, for another tangent, just to round it all off, there's a D&D, like, we've had, like, a similar, like, connection issue where it's just kind of, like, we'll load in, because we're playing online right now, to, like, the Roll20 platform, which is, like, it's a great platform, but the user experience is not incredible. But so our webcams will all be, like, all 5 of us there or whatever, but not everyone can see everyone. So we have to play, like, a really weird game of telephone in chat and, like, to the 2 videos you can see to be like, okay, I can see so-and-so and so-and-so. No, I can only see this guy. And so we have to, like, do, like, a refresh roulette until, like, we get there. And it's, like, it's a pain in the ass, but it's funny in its own way. And it makes for a good story about the experience after.
Maybe that's what the devs intended, to bring us all closer together.
Nothing bonds gamers like frustration.
Exactly. Speaking of bonding gamers, Pokemon Unite. It actually happened. We spoke it into existence.
That was so good.
We are coming up on an hour, and we have yet to talk about Pokemon Unite, which is okay, people, because as anyone who knows me knows I love Pokemon. We talk about Pokemon way too much on this show as is. Just kidding. There's no such thing.
I'm just like I saw in the notes that you sent over ahead of time, like a couple minutes ahead of time, because I didn't check my DMs. That like, oh, Pokemon Unite. I'm like, oh, is that one of the games doing a really cool Bidoof event right now? I'm like, nope, that's only for like Pokemon Go and like Pokemon's entire Twitter channel, just like hailing the power that is Bidoof. But Pokemon Unite seems cool too.
Yeah, it seems all right. My thing is, all right. I'll just keep it. It's a Pokemon MOBA. That's all it is. It's a MOBA and it has a Pokemon skin on it. It doesn't look trash. It looks like they put some thought into it. And, people are talking about it, and I was like, I love Pokemon. I'm going to talk about it. Get them clicks, the SEO gods, whatever.
Yeah. I remember it being announced, and then I had to do, like, a panic look it up because my memory is so bad, like, right before. It looks like every other mobile MOBA, which, good for them, I guess. But it's so weird because, like, there's, like, I feel like there's a certain amount of, like, brand trust that comes with a Pokemon name, whereas just especially with, I guess, parents. I'm not a parent, so I'm just assuming that's what parents think. Where it's like, oh yeah, Pokemon. I played this when I was a kid. Safe, great, okay. But then you get like the MOBA clause get in, and they're like, oh well, here's a premium currency you can buy skins with to dress your Pokemon up in cool outfits. All right, kids, don't hit that button. And it's like, oh. And you can lean back and be like, oh well, Nintendo has like said that, oh, we don't want our monetization to be too predatory, like we don't want to be that. But then like the Pokemon company, Nintendo behemoth, is like, I don't know, like Pokemon Unite isn't a Nintendo game despite being made by like Pokemon Company and Timmy Studios, and like it's just, there's kind of like, it feels like there's something nefarious, the MOBA nefariousness is like creeping in like beneath all of the happy Pokemon vibes and cute Pikachu hats and stuff. I don't know. I sound super paranoid, like saying it like that, but
no, I get you. But the weird thing about it is that like Pokemon is a Nintendo game as much as it's not a Nintendo game. I'm talking about the core series in the sense that you'll never see a Pokemon game on a non-Nintendo platform. But the Pokemon games are made by the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, and Nintendo just kind of foots the bill, so to speak. So that's why you end up.
There's like a weird ownership trifecta that I should have looked up ahead of time, where it's like Pokemon Company is like part owned by Nintendo or something, but not like enough for them to have like control. I don't remember what it is, and I'm gonna sound like a fake journalist right now.
No, you're right. It's the trifecta. It's Game Freak, Pokemon Company, Nintendo.
Yeah. Okay.
And then and then the Pokemon Company goals with the franchise don't always have to reflect what Nintendo wants. Like the Pokemon Company got with Niantic and made Pokemon Go. Mm-hmm. And that didn't involve Nintendo in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
They were.
Oh yeah, because I remember that one story where like right after Pokemon Go launched, Nintendo stock went like really high up, and then dropped immediately when investors like found out that Nintendo wasn't actually involved with Pokemon Go.
Yeah, and then you have like merchandising where it's like like even if Nintendo makes it, the Pokemon Company has to approve it, and then, you have like Game Freak, which likes to pretend they really make other games. Like I always feel bad like when I'm watching like a Nintendo Direct and they're like, this game for Game Freak, they worked really hard on it. I'm just like, you make Pokemon.
Oh.
That's all you do. And nothing against the developers. It's just a
you were too good at this one thing. I'm sorry. Now you're just good at this forever.
Yeah, like that's just the hard truth of the matter.
Yeah.
You can make other games, and y'all do. No one knows what they are.
I'm curious, as the Pokemon expert, how many genres has Pokemon now crossed over into? Like,
all right,
probably too many to list in the time we have left, but
I don't know, because so you have like you have of course the main RPG, and now you have MOBA. You have the dungeon crawlers in Pokemon Mystery Dungeons. You had the RTS and what was that again? Pokemon Conquest.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that's actually a really good game. I really wish they'd make a sequel to it. It's way better than it has any right to be. It's one of those games.
Yeah.
Like it's
all of those, like, because it's kind of one of those Fire Emblem, or not Fire Emblem, those Dynasty Warriors crossover kind of things, right?
Yeah. I say it's more close to like Advance Wars.
Okay.
What
am I thinking of?
I mean, they do have the fighter, the
Pokken tournament, right?
Yeah.
That
nonsense.
Oh.
I heard it actually got a lot better. They care. You have what else? I feel like I'm forgetting.
There's the Pokemon Cafe game that's like a Tsum Tsum kind of thing.
You're right, the mobile game. There's it's touched a lot a lot more genres than you think. I don't know, that action adventure nonsense that you want to call Gale of Darkness and Coliseum. You know, some people love them.
Hi, I'm some people. How may I help you? I just like a broody protagonist. Like, I'll be transparent here. I just liked that game was dark and edgy.
You're like 2001 called. It's like no.
I'm 12 years old. Like Shadow Pokemon. Yeah, this is all about me now.
Look at me. I'm a dark, mysterious figure with a dark, mysterious past.
Thanks over my.
But
I guess. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say it touched a lot of jokes. But what I think interesting about this is, do I think Pokemon, the mobile Pokemon game, is gonna take over like MOBAs and be like, something that competes with League of Legends? No. But what I will say is it may be the first legit successful console MOBA, because it's going to release on mobile devices and then also be on Switch, and those two will interact with each other. So I'm like, imagine if Pokemon Go was like also on Switch to some capacity. Like, imagine how crazy that would be. And so I'm just saying, let's just say this takes off. I don't think anything will hit Pokemon Go numbers ever again. That's that's lightning strike. But could Pokemon be the answer to the first successful console MOBA? Maybe. I think that's something worth talking about.
I'm trying to remember. It's something I say every moment of every day. My memory is so bad. But I know like some of the like PC MOBAs, I can't remember the specific ones, but are working on like a console version of their MOBA to bring to console players. I know that like League of Legends got onto I think it's League of Legends that got onto mobile via their Wild Rift from the ground up remake, and I think that was coming to consoles too or something. Maybe I'm lying on your podcast and I apologize for that. But Pokemon's gonna be there first. Like it's out like next month or something, right?
Yeah, it's out next month. I don't think it has an exact release date for Switch. It's just like July. Jazz hands.
Yeah, but like the other interesting thing is too, with all of those kind of franchises that Pokemon has branched off into, it doesn't seem like they find like strong success, like main Pokemon game success or whatever like benchmark you would consider like success in these spin-offs. Like they're always just spin-offs that kind of exist tangentially. So it'll be interesting to see if this one, just because MOBAs generally are built around the staying power and this kind of like persistence. It'll be interesting to see if this is like the Pokemon spin-off that sticks really hard, because I feel like Pokemon Go is kind of an anomaly in that way. Yeah, and even though it's fallen so much, like that game's still so actively played. I think my uncle has played it every single day since it came out. Like it's unreal. It won't have nearly Pokemon Go staying power, but it'll be interesting to see how it racks up against their other like attempts at like partnerships with other developers and partnerships in certain like different genres to try to get the Pokemon name out there.
Yeah. I would argue that Pokemon Stadium was probably like a strong spin-off that would have had the staying power, but Nintendo doesn't like to do things that make sense or an obvious easy choice. They like to take the hard road for some strange reason.
Yeah, the Pokemon Stadium games were so good, and you could plug your game into them and have your team in the thingy, and I made my parents buy all the little adapters so I could do that.
Like, I don't know this for sure, but I feel like Pokemon Stadium did numbers. Like, it did, okay.
They made a second one.
Yeah, they made a second one, and I feel like Pokemon Stadium 2 did equal numbers. Mm-hmm. So I just don't, as much
but
as I guess
it kind of like comes down though, like where you have like your core Pokemon games or like your Pokemon like handheld games, it's like your core line or whatever, and I guess like the TCG, how some people get into the franchise, but you have this very specific get monster, train monster, fight monster, and then a lot of the spin-offs seem to explore different elements of that, but like Pokemon Stadium explores the central mechanic that people are already like familiar with, like, oh, I like fighting monster, what if I fight monster in a more like fighting specific way? So it just zeroes in on something you're already really enjoying in the game. And kind of like the MOBA is a different spin on that. I know Pokken Tournament did a different spin on that and didn't do too well, so maybe I'm talking out my ass here, but I don't know. I feel like the MOBA is kind of a good encapsulation of like, okay, well, I have my team of Pokemon going against others using these abilities that I know, and it's rooted in that familiarity where it feels comforting in that kind of way. Like it doesn't feel like a reach to be consuming Pokemon through this different genre for me.
Yeah. I think where it will succeed, and I think this is why Pokemon Conquest succeeded per me so well. It was such a great game. I think if you have a chance to play it on the DS, play it.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to most MOBAs, I think the cost of entry is going to be really low. And I don't mean because, oh, it's Pokemon, they're going to dumb it down. But I read an interesting article that was talking about the success of Pokemon, that even if you've never played a game, just because of how Pokemon exists in the zeitgeist, you kind of just get it. In the sample, in the example of, you know, fire beats water, grass beats water. I mean, water beats fire, fire beats grass, grass beats water. I don't know what world I'm living in, people.
You can edit that out. It's fine. No one has to know.
You know, it's like, you know, the rock paper scissors formula. And, you know, yeah, it branches out to the other types, but you kind of get like, you can look at a Pokemon, know its type, and kind of gauge what it's strong against without being a super Pokemon master. Like it has that rudimentary color recognition, type recognition, just things just from existing, compared to, you know, if you play League of Legends, if I can't pick a hero and know who they're strong against and what they're in, like I'm gonna have to look up charts, but Pokemon won't have that problem. Whether you're new to the franchise, returning player, like it just has that familiarity and easy to understand. So if it does succeed, I think that's what's gonna be its big, you know, plus in this thing. You won't have to learn heroes and typing, and you'll just kind of instinctively know.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, because especially how like Pokemon, like Pikachu is a first generation Pokemon from like a million years ago, and it's still like front and center in all their marketing because they know, oh, people have seen Pikachu, people have interacted maybe through Pokemon Go or like all of these familiar faces. So having that in this game, yeah, it lowers the barrier of entry for like MOBAs are so difficult to learn. I hate learning like champ matchups and like items and all that stuff. Nope, I'm out. But like Pokemon seems like palatable.
Yeah, it's like,
oh, you know that, yeah,
it's a water Pokemon. Here's my electric one. You die now. or my favorite, there's a meme that says, "How do you remember types?" And it's like, oh, it's like, you know, water erodes rock, and then it's like, you know, the sun burns plants.
What's the brain one? The fuck. Excuse me. I just forgot like an idiom. The pen is the brains before brawn. That's the one. Yeah, that's how you remember the psychic fighting thing. This is why I'm not good at fighting psychic matchups.
But the meme ends in a funny way. But it's like, but how do you remember like fighting is weak against flying? What's your hand like? What's your note for that? And it's like, have you ever tried to punch a bird? And I don't know why. I just think that's like the funniest thing ever, because I was like, man, you really can't punch a bird. That is a difficult ask.
You just run around, be like, I'm training for Pokemon, and like just chasing a flock of birds around. And they're like, what is this guy doing?
I was like, yes, that's why fighting is weak against flying, because you can't really punch a bird. They're like in the sky.
Can't punch a ghost, so it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But Alissa, sadly, we're out of time for this week. I know.
I'm just glad we got time to talk about the things we wanted to talk about between like the entire like circle of tangents that we've done.
Well,
it's a great chat. I'm sorry for derailing so much.
Well, I know it's hard to believe, but here on this podcast, we always come full circle.
It's the name of the podcast. I gotcha.
I know. Big brain energy right here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Alissa, where can the people find you, keep up with you, at you about your wonderful opinions?
You can find me currently professionally at gamasutra.com. Just covering a bunch of cool industry news, and yeah, it's good. I love that job. You can find me talking about Hitman or just dumb takes about Dragon Age that are 6 years too late. We'll be at Twitter at Glitchy, which is GLIITCHY. That is the only social media I really mess with anymore. I have a TikTok account, but nobody needs to see my likes. They're just too embarrassing.
No, I remember when I first started doing this, and I don't mean like a lot. I mean like maybe 10 max. People were like trying to add me on Facebook, and I was like, I say follow me on social media, but I really mean just follow me on Twitter and possibly Instagram. I will not add you on Facebook.
I found like my like Twinfinite era business cards for when I was a young baby in the industry and going to my very first like PAX as a professional. I was just like, oh, here's my email and my Facebook and my LinkedIn and my phone number, and I'm like, I don't want anyone to have most of that information. Now you have an email address that is specific to this thing that I can turn off when I don't want to deal with it. Like,
I know I'm with you on that. It's like, here's my everything. Hire me. Blood type.
Hire me and then contact me in case of emergency only.
But as always, people, you can find me at Odo Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media. You can find the podcast at FC Podcast 23. And there is a Patreon. I'd like to thank my Patreons, Gabriel Garcia, Rachel Coleman, Beck Rice, Ryan Frazier, Gabriel Cleveland. And, you can subscribe to that if you want to throw some dollars this way. You don't have to, because as always, you can like, share, subscribe for free 99. Just saying. You're already here. Just hit one of them buttons. I don't know. It's supposed to do something good for me. I'm convinced it doesn't, but that's what she's supposed to do, so I said it. So do that thing. Free.
Serotonin, right? You hit the button, and then you get serotonin, and you're happy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like the phrase free 99, because in my mind, I'm like, does that mean it's 99 cents?
I was going to make that joke, but I didn't. Your outro, you say it with like such confidence that I'm like, I don't want to interrupt this energy.
No, it is a legit saying, free 99, but ever since I was little, and I always wanted to ask, I'm like, but wouldn't that imply that, like, it's 99 cents?
That tax is what gets you.
Yeah. But as always, everyone, have a great week. Be blessed. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.